Good morning. It's Tuesday. I've got the mute on the television. What I should be doing is that. You see all that? That's what happens when I go somewhere. I have to unpack and I don't like to. Do not come up here. Seriously. Told them to go exercise. That's my new thing to tell people. I did go on a walk yesterday, but boy, I had a headache all day. It was so hot. Oh, anyway. This might be a little long session, so you better get your coffee going. Now, Lisa's watching. Hi, Lisa. And Dow Crowder. Let's see. Amos started camp, which is great. Really great in Newport. His person is Logan. He has his own person, and she's a kindergarten, first grade teacher that's going to be spending 4 weeks with him. Then I got a speeding ticket on the way back, which, I mean, it's just what it is. I would like to point out, though, to people that if you're in Morehead City or Atlantic Beach, there are a lot of police down here. Like, why are there so many? It's so annoying. Sorry. And then somebody was like, I hope you never go 55 and a 53 and a 35 again. It was 45 like 10 minutes ago. I mean, I cannot take this chastisement. Anyway, now let's just go ahead and bust into what we're going to talk about. Yesterday, I did a psychological experiment. Now, because I'm not governed by any ethics boards, I put up a post, and it was sort of neutral. I stated all these comments that people say things like, hi, Terry. People say things like, we have too many people in our own country to take care of, or we need a wall. This is a law. Obama put people in cages. So I just put those statements up there and I said, tune in tonight and we're going to talk. Now, I didn't say what my position was. The aftermath is very telling of our society today. And I'm going to tell you what happened. I lost 100 followers, more than that, 100, just from being neutral, or just from like people thinking maybe I was negative. And the interesting thing is, I lost followers who are extreme conservatives that maybe were worried I was going to chastise the people at the border. And then I lost these kind of liberals who thought that I thought those things. My point is, and maybe I'm not very articulate, but if you don't listen and stop and ask and read, and you run away when something scares you or you don't agree with it, then this world stinks. Yes, Andrea, I don't need them. It's not about that. It's just the worry that it's really that big of a deal. I think we all, I've spent the last 6 weeks doing a lot of reading, and interviewing all about this border stuff. I've been really quiet about it. People are probably thinking, well, she just doesn't want to get into it. And I've kind of wanted to not talk until I really got a handle on what was going on. Personally, I cannot tell what side you're on. No, Aaron, you couldn't. But the point is, did you need to? Like, can't we not tell what side, and can't we just listen? I guess I feel like I'm the only person in the world that doesn't have a side. I just read information, and then I kind of develop an opinion after I've done that. A lot of people seem to come to the table with an opinion, and they don't even know anything. Like people are using photos of children in cages saying that's what's happening. Those photos are from like 2014. I mean, there's no reason to lie or to like conjure up something to make things look worse than they are. They're terrible. We don't need that. Or President Trump saying, no, this is the Democrats' law. It is not. So we're going to go over some basic truths, border truths. Did you see my post on my personal page? No, I didn't. But I will look. Okay, so we're going to go over some truths. But anyway, I'm just telling y'all that just settle down and think. Use your mind that God gave you to think. And that's exactly why I was like, okay, I'm going to start talking now. Some dodo bird was talking about using the Bible to justify following the law. I tell you what, if you start getting into rhetoric like that, you're in trouble. That same Romans 11 passage was used to justify the Holocaust, used to justify when black people were in separate schools, women not voting. I mean, you got to really be careful. This is what I'm talking about, using your mind. And then there's a fella, and I've taken this other phone. Oh God, my mom's sending me text. His name is Stephen Miller, and I want you to think about, because Stephen Miller is a really good place to start when you're trying to understand what's happening. Does everybody have their coffee? No. Sausage biscuit. Do you think you read research more than the average person? Maybe I do, Dawn. I mean, certainly I do. But I can't imagine trying to persuade somebody or to have an argument without the proper knowledge. Like, it's better to be quiet. Anyway, okay, so we're going to talk about Stephen Miller. Now, Stephen Miller went to Duke, which, Duke's in North Carolina. Stephen Miller is with the Trump administration. Let me get my note up here. Okay, he said this quote recently: "Our opponents, the media, and the whole world will soon see, as we begin to take further actions, that the powers of the president to protect our country are very substantial and will not be questioned." I don't care if you're a conservative, if you're a liberal, if you're an atheist. When somebody says the powers will not be questioned, someone in your own government, you better get the fuck out of here. That's dangerous. So let's go over him a little bit. He's from a Jewish family, which is interesting because you would think he was like a neo-Nazi. And I'm just going to read quotes by him. So this was his high school yearbook quote was this: Teddy Roosevelt, "There can be no 50-50 Americanism in this country. There is room here for only 100% Americanism. Only for those who are American and nothing else." It's scary as hell. So even if you think, I love Trump, I mean, I voted for Trump, go ahead, hate me now, whatever. But why not be honest? Just because you voted for Trump doesn't mean you have to defend this shit, okay? Don't defend this stuff. It makes you look like an idiot. Golly, it was so annoying. Okay, when he was 16, and granted he was 16, but when people have attitudes, I like Duke personally. When people have attitudes like this at 16, it don't change at 21. This is just giving you a background. So when he was 16, he wrote an opinion piece in a newspaper article. And he wrote, quote, "A number of my classmates lack basic English skills, and there are very few, if any, Latino students in honors classes, despite the large number of Hispanic students that attend our school." He also decried the school would do announcements in Spanish and in English. Now, y'all might be getting tired of him, but I just want you to listen a little bit about the person that was behind the Muslim ban and is now really pressuring our president more. I don't think this is something that people were dying to do. So I'm just telling you about this. He's 32. Let's see. Oh, I'm not going to talk about that. That's too complicated. Oh, and his rabbi said this. Now, this is interesting. "Miller is not the only Jew who is supportive of these policies, but he's in a position of great influence." Another person said, who was in school with him, "I can't begin to explain what it's like to have actually heard racism come out of the mouth of a person who has influence over legislation in this country. A lot of people who went to school with him are sick to their stomachs." One article, Miller accused Maya Angelou of, quote, "racial paranoia," and said her, quote, "legendary wisdom amounted to tired multicultural cliches." David Glosser. Now, this is a kind of an interesting person. This is his uncle. So he said, for the first time in my memory, a major American political party's presidential candidate has proposed laws, hi Jennifer, and regulations established solely on the basis of a person's religion and ethnic background. My nephew and I must both reflect long and hard on one awful truth. If in the early 20th century in the United States had built a wall against poor, desperate, ignorant immigrants of a different religion, like the Glossers, all of us would have gone up to the crematoria chimneys with the other 6 million kinsmen who we can never know. Did you hear that? I hope you heard that. This is a person in our government that's influencing policy. I hope you heard that. I just can't say enough how important I think that is. So that's kind of where we start. And when you start with that, you have to come at it from a way that you think, you know what, maybe I need to do a little more reading. And so I did. I spent a good day on him, and then I started looking at these myths and what people are saying. Now, crossing the border, this is number one. Got your coffee? Crossing the border is illegal. Okay, it is illegal. That's correct. It's a federal misdemeanor. Do you know what else is a federal misdemeanor? If you take water hyacinths, is that hyacinths? They're like plants from a federal refuge. That's a misdemeanor. If you catch a fish at a national park, that's a federal misdemeanor. If you cross a border illegally, that's a misdemeanor. Those are all listed the same in the law. Now, if you've crossed for the second time, it's a more serious offense. But I want you to hear that. It's a misdemeanor. Misdemeanor. So let's go over that. Now, the zero tolerance policy is not a law. It's a policy. The government policy now mandates, and this is how it's different than other administrations, they mandate that all families be criminally prosecuted for the federal misdemeanor of illegal crossing, and with that decision, children are separated from their families. So it's a policy that Trump put into place. Obama's administration thought about putting it in place, and they were like, no, we cannot do that because it's terrible. So it's a policy. It's not a law. It's a policy. So if you agree with that, what you're saying is, maybe you agree, maybe you think crossing the border should be more than a misdemeanor. Maybe it should. Not arguing with you. But currently, it is a misdemeanor. And the punishment is to lose your children. Now, what's happening is somebody's saying this stuff about, well, they lose them for 20 days. That's not true. Children are being pulled from their parents, and they're given a number. Some parents have already gone back to Mexico, and they don't have their kids yet. Just think about what that would feel like. They don't know where they are. I mean, Amos, they're kids with autism in Honduras. And these are not people from Mexico. I mean, Lord help us if you all don't know that. I mean, golly. People that seek political asylum are from other countries, and they come through Mexico. Let's just get off on a tangent here. Political asylum is allowed by international, not political asylum, allowed by international law and federal law. Now, if you cross illegally and say, I need asylum, in the past, we never prosecuted people criminally for this kind of stuff. Are you sitting on the steps? Go away. I told you I'm going to work for an hour. Go on. So they would deal with your asylum case, and then they would figure out what they're going to do with you. Well, in the last couple weeks, it's now a policy that if you present yourself at a point of entry, that's where you're legally allowed to come through the country. If you present yourself at a point of entry and say, I would like asylum, totally legal, you're being prosecuted criminally. I can promise you something. This ain't going to happen much longer because the UN is going to burn our asses up. I mean, you can't do that. So anyway, whether you think people should stay home, and we got plenty of our own people to talk about, we're talking about law and what is, not what you think should be. We're just talking about what is. Okay, so good. We got that? All right, let me get back to my stuff. Okay, now, the majority of illegal immigrants in this country, let's do this as a multiple choice question, are children, snuck across the border, or came here on a visa. Ding, 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 ding. C. 54% of legal immigrants came here on a visa and overstayed. I know you can't believe it because that's nothing that you've read about online. We need a wall. That's interesting. A wall. People come on visas. A wall doesn't do anything for that. Now, the visa, if you overstay your visa, is that against the law? Nope. No, it's not. If you overstay your visa, what is it called? It's a civil violation. That's even less than a misdemeanor. It gets handled in immigration court proceedings, and the penalty is deportation. Now, we already skipped that. Separating families does not deter immigration. This is true. So the head of Homeland Security, I can't remember what his name was. Jay Johnson, under Obama, he said it is nothing but a short-term solution. It does not work in the long term. You have people that are desperate, and if you're desperate enough to leave your country with your children and nothing, don't you think, well, hell, I just got to take my chances. Imagine how bad your life would be to make that journey anyway. I mean, you would think, well, here, I'll probably die anyway. I mean, I would do it too, right? Anyway. Now, here's what Jay Johnson said. I've seen this movie before, and I feel like what we are doing now with the zero tolerance policy and separating parents and children for the purpose of deterrence is banging our heads against the wall. Whether it's family detention, messaging about dangers of the journey, or messaging about separating families, it's always going to have at best a short-term reaction. Now, from July to November in 2017, the administration tested out a zero tolerance policy for parents in the El Paso area. Now, the administration said that it was terribly successful. They said it was, what was the number? It decreased going across the border by 64%. Well, that was just a lie. Overall, for some reason during that time, border crossings decreased by 43% anyway. So there's 21%. And they also said it decreased it for families. It wasn't families, it was everybody. So just think about when you hear these things. Now, one thing that really happens is called redirected migration flows. So if you block here, somebody comes around here. So what's going to happen is people are going to come in other ways to get places. They find a new tunnel every week. So, and then one person called, this is really good. Now I'm skipping around. You are confusing me. Oh, this is good. The Border Patrol, found one tunnel per month on average between 2007 and 2010. Kevin Hecht, this guy's cool, a Border Patrol tunnel expert, told the New York Times last year a wall would likely increase the rewards for successful tunneling as other modes of transit grow more expensive. Trump is unconcerned, asserting that tunnel technology will rule out any such subterfuge. Effective tunnel detection equipment is seen as the holy grail of Border Patrol enforcement, but the Homeland Security Department's Science and Technology Directorate has so far concluded that no current technology for detecting tunnels beneath the border is suited to Border Patrol agents' operational needs. Okay, so we have a wall. We're going to have more tunnels. And then what people are going to do is they're going to start paying people to get them across the border. So it's going to increase that business. Now let's talk about more of this. Crap. This is why I'm not terribly effective. Okay. One person said, thousands have died in the desert, and if death doesn't stop us, will a wall? I don't think so. I don't think so either. Now, border walls have increased illegal immigration. What is this person saying? I can't even deal. Okay. Now, a wall will do nothing to stop these people from entering, but it may actually incentivize more people to stick around without authorization. Now, have a swig of coffee. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about what's happened from the 1980s to now in terms of illegal immigration. It's gotten worse. Has it gotten worse? I don't know. I'll tell you what happened. Before, we had a wall and it wasn't very strict. Lots of people came into the country illegally. But guess what else? They also left. They would come during harvest season and then they would leave. So until the first fence was built in 1990, did you know that? 1990, workers could circulate freely across the border, coming to harvest crops during the summer and then returning home in the winter. They crossed with the goal of bettering their lives south of the border. The 1980s had more total crossings than the 1990s. So once the fence was up, there were less total crossings, okay? But because as many people left each year as arrived, this is important, the total number of unauthorized immigrants remained roughly constant at about 3 million people. The true measure of a barrier's efficacy should not be the gross flow, but the true measure of a barrier's efficacy should take into account both entries and exits. It's important, right? Okay, good. Were we there? Yeah, I didn't even have my sausage biscuit. Now, increased enforcement in the 1990s raised the cost to cross the border, which obviously prevented some migrants from crossing at the margin. The cost of a single border crossing went up from $500 in 1995 to $3,000 in 2009. So as we made it harder to get across or to come back, the price went up. And guess who's getting people over? Probably the same people that are dealing with smuggling drugs. Let's just put that out there. Increasing the price of illegal activity is law enforcement's major measurement of success. The Drug Enforcement Administration would be thrilled to claim if it had driven up illicit drug prices 600% in a decade and a half. I think that's supposed to be funny. This strategy backfired. The increased cost and risk disincentivized people from returning home. Are you listening to this? In 1996, just as the secondary fencing was going up in San Diego, a majority of new unauthorized entrants left within 1 year, according to a study by Doug Massey at University of Pennsylvania. By 2009, there were 3 times as many agents, 650 miles of barriers, and constant surveillance along the border. An illegal immigrant's likelihood of leaving with 1 year had dropped to a statistically insignificant level. So before, the majority of people were leaving, and now people aren't leaving because they're afraid they can't come back. So now they're just going to sit in the United States and not go home. Border security had essentially trapped them in. The legal population grew in tandem with the increases in smuggling prices, which in turn paralleled the growth of the number of border offices. Oh, so annoying. And I had the phone thing set up. This process continued from 1990 to 2007, when the housing collapse finally set Mexican migration into reverse. Massey says that of 2009, 5.3 million fewer immigrants would have been residing in the United States illegally if enforcement had remained at the same levels in the 1980s. Now, do you hear that? That's just research. That's not what anybody thinks. The more of a hard ass our country is being, the worse it's making the problem. You know what this kind of reminds me of? Spanking. Now, in our brains, we think if we spank somebody, they're going to act better, right? Now, I only deal with people. I spank people, or want to when I'm mad at them, because that's reality. But let's just pretend we spank people and they act better. Well, the research says when you spank people, they're more aggressive. And if you only had to spank somebody, you'd only have to do it once. So this is like our country saying, yes, we're going to spank till they act better. And all we're doing is making it worse, 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 worse. Okay? These are not like thoughts or preconceived notions that I've been sitting around thinking about. I read a ton, and then I'm like, oh, that's what normal people do. They don't see the word border and run for the hills. I mean, if you're that fickle, or you can't possibly just think for a minute about Stephen Miller. I mean, if he's somebody that you agree with, then you have no business. I don't know. I don't need to ever see you or talk to you again. Go ahead. Be pissed. I don't care. I mean, anyway. I mean, his graduate, Stephen Miller, so if y'all are just tuning in, Stephen Miller at his graduation said that, and he said it was a joke. Does this sound like a joke? I don't know why we pick up trash. I mean, that's why we pay janitors. That's not funny. Okay, now, let's see. We went through the tunnels already. So, using family separation as a means of preventing unauthorized border crossings does not have a record of success. This month, reporting 2017 family separation pilot program was actually followed by an increase in the number of family crossings later on. And that's kind of what we were talking about, that redirected migration flow. Truly, we all know the family separation is meant to be punitive. I mean, that's just, right? I mean, don't we all know that? But it might be punitive for you too. Do you know how much it cost? Let's see. Let's look at the numbers. This is kind of interesting. Okay. On average, according to a 2015 study by the Government Accountability Office, holding a child in a shelter costs $248 per day. On average, children stay in custody for 34 days. By multiplying these figures together, we can estimate that a policy of separating families costs taxpayers $327 million per year. You know what that would do? It'd do a lot in my little town of Edenton. Anyway, and illegal immigrants, let's just go over this one more time because I want people to make sure. These are not people from Mexico. A lot of these people, the biggest shift in terms of arrivals at the southern border has been families and children fleeing extreme violence and poverty in Central America. They come from Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador. It's a group of countries they call the Northern Triangle of Central America. Those three countries have some of the highest murder rates and highest rates of violence against women and girls. Hi, how? So just so you know, this is not all people from Mexico. I mean, I feel like I'm teaching like kindergarten immigration class. And let me just say this. Somebody sent me this mean message last night. I don't care. And said, who are you, the expert on immigration? And you're trying to, that post I did with the comments that I hear people say or have read, you're trying to decide what you think based on being popular. Do I seem like I want to be popular? I mean, look at me. Do I look popular? No. I know damn well when I wrote the word border, people were going to fly to the hills. I mean, hell, y'all can't take the word gun, the word border, testing. There are all sorts of words that are like, I hate her. Anyway, I don't give a fuck. Now, let's see what else. If I have anything else I wanted y'all to go. And I'm going to write all this up, I think, tonight, if I have time, which is unlikely. Because my children seem to think I need to be with them every second. I might drop them off at the movies. Okay, now. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's the Proctor's Guide. I think that's all. Does that sound like all? Popular, not in high school anymore. No, I'm not. Does anybody else have anything to add? So, let's just, when you hear somebody speak, and I tell you, I find who is most, well, there's two. People on extreme ends are the most annoying to me. So if you are extremely conservative and posting how Obama put people in cages, that's annoying. It's not true. The people that you see in those pictures during the Obama administration were children that came unaccompanied. They've always been held like that. Is it great? Probably not. But it's way different to me when you come unaccompanied versus coming with your mother. Financially, it makes sense. Morally, it makes sense. Keep children with their parents. Now, the other thing is, if you're really liberal and you can't fathom how somebody could think like, a lot of times when people say, well, people probably in my own family, I don't understand why they're coming over here. Don't get all pissy and yell at somebody. Like say, hey, me neither. So on Space Force, what the hell is that? Let's talk about it. Like, let's talk about why people are coming over here. Let's like stop for a minute and get out of our, bed with our TV and our ocean. And let's just sit and think about what drives somebody to do that. It's kind of like to me saying, well, they shouldn't have committed suicide. That's selfish. I mean, if you think things like that, you've just got to step back. So you liberal people, I'm especially talking to you, don't be shitty. Listen to what people have to say. And don't assume, when you assume things like that, you're pushing off conservatives that still have a heart and are smart. I'm conservative, but I mean, would I agree with Stephen Miller? What the hell? I'm not a neo-Nazi. Golly. Anyway, y'all have got to stop identifying politically. It's a real problem. It is. I'm just going to say that. Now, I'm going to write this up later. I'm going to clean up all this crap in my room. And Medicaid, Medicare, blah, blah, blah. I mean, do you know how much our country spends hanging out with Kim Jong-un? Let's just be realistic here. And for anybody that says, why are we taking care of children in other countries? That's like saying to me, why are we taking care of dogs in shelters? I mean, if we're really going to get into what's most important, then why do we do a lot of things? And then one person was like, well, I don't want to talk. I just want to hear your solution. What is this, like a computer? No. I mean, how do you ever get to a solution? That's like saying, I don't want to do research. I just want you to fix cancer. Anyway, I can't take it. I really can't take it. And somebody said, don't feed the trolls. People are not trolls. People genuinely feel they're confused and don't know. And so I hope that my honesty or being normal and nice helps people. So anyway, just be smart. Be smart. I got that speeding ticket yesterday, and I thought, I was taking Amos to camp. And not desperate to get out of violence, but I was happy to get him to camp. So I was going a little fast, and I get pulled over. And my kids get pulled away from me, and I don't know where they go or what they're doing, all because I had good intentions of doing the right thing for him, right? So anyway, just think about that for a few minutes. That what drives you to do that and what happens. Somebody's saying something about conservatives. I'm conservative. This doesn't have anything to do with being conservative. This has to do with using your brain and thinking. Now, what are the solutions going to be? I don't know. I really don't know. But I know we can't talk about solutions until we talk about truth. So let's just get to the truth. Don't share those photos of kids in cages pretending that that's happening today. Terrible stuff is happening today, but it's not those. You're diluting your case. And nobody tell me that this is a law. If we don't protect all children, what happens to the next generations? Brain, what a concept. Anyway, not that I'm the smartest person. Remember, you too can have a blog, even if you never make 1,000 on the SAT. Oh, the rationale for taking the kids. It's punishment. It is purely Punitive. Purely punitive. Anyway, goodbye. Thank y'all. If you feel like anybody needs to see this, tell them to come watch. Though I might sort of scare them. That's why I didn't eat my sausage biscuit. Goodbye. Well, hell, how do you get out of here? Huh. I got all these funny, like, emoji things. Oh, shoot. Let's see. Live. Uh-oh. We got trouble now. Oh, here it is. Let's see. Oh, good. I'm sort of incompetent. Have fun at the beach. We will. We're going to have fun at the beach.